Thanks, Swapnil. Let's start this session. Today's topic is quite interesting. India's linkages with global economy and how it impacts the rupee. Um, this is the current topic with the recent stories from China and the global area. Let's see how it will impact the rupee and the Indian economy too. Let's have a look at the global trade, our share in the global trade. Just look at these numbers over a period of 5 years from 2009-10, which is a crucial year after Lehman's debacle, and a lot of quantitative easing has happened and the economies have changed. Uh, our exports from 178 we have grown to 309, it's almost double what we were in last 5 years. Similarly, imports have also increased. Our total increase in the exports over a period of 5 years is close to 11.6%. That is something very interesting numbers to look at. India's export to the GDP ratio has also increased from 13.3 to 15.56%. It's a very good numbers if you see the exports jump. Um, last 10 years we were just below 10%. From 10 to 15, I think so that's a sizable number. In 2009, on the share of India in the global merchandise exports, we were close to 0.9, just below 1%. Today we are 1.7%. In last 5 years, our ranking has come from 29 to 19. We are in the first 20. That is also commendable. Our foreign trade policy of 15-20, India's actual target for 2020 on the merchandise and services exports is close to 900 billion. That is something big number. This number in itself can tell you what kind of exposure we have on the global markets and on the global trade. Um, let's have a look on the how our exports to the world has changed from 2004 to 2014-15. In last 10 years, if you look, our concentration is now been shifted from the developed economies to the developing economies. Asia, which was giving us some 48% in the exports, now we are concentrating close to 50% on Asia. Latin America, which was 3%, has come to 5%. Our exposure to Africa has changed a lot from 7% to 11%. It's a sizable growth. So what we have done in last 10 years is we have shifted our base from developed economies to developing economies. So now we are more prone to the risk associated with developing economies too. Similarly, our imports have also changed. We are importing now sizable things from Asia, which was earlier we were dependent on Europe. Now it's on Asia, take it from Malaysia, Samsung, all the emerging markets, our exposures to them have increased a lot. Imports from Asia only has significantly rose from 36 to 59%. Now this number in itself should tell us that if there is some problem in the Asian economies, definitely our imports will suffer. If their economy is not doing good, if their economy is picking up, that will definitely have impact on our economy. Let's look at the major trading partners. Everybody and anyone knows that export destination best is USA. After that we have UAE. For import sources, we have majority of the imports from China, which constitutes close to 60 billion. Now, then that itself tells us that if Chinese currency devalues, it will give us a benefit to a certain extent because our dependency on them is on a larger extent, which many people totally ignore. They feel that if China devalues, even our currency will go down, it will have an impact, this and that. But if they devalue to a certain levels, that will in turn benefit our economy if permitted by government wherein import duties and that has not been levied. Look at the India's trade basket. Now, petroleum products as well as crude constitutes the major item, the first stop on both the ends, exports as well as imports. So we have a sizable exports from petroleum products. We have crude also. So crude is a blessing and a curse to us because blessing in sense if your import prices, if the crude prices are lower, the imports are down. But similarly, it will have an impact on the petroleum products as well. The prices will be subdued there also, and that will hit our exports. So that is one of the number wherein we are seeing our exports coming down too because of this petroleum products. Services, this is the best growth we have seen, and lot of India's betting is on all the service sector. We have seen a CAGR of 8% throughout in last 5 to 6 years. We have a trade balance on the services sector. A lot of people have come up and set up their shops in operations, back office operations, even in insurance sector. Services industry is going great, and that is where the majority of India is banking on the employment generation, on the global, on the total growth aspect. We are totally dependent on services. Let's look at the FDI flows. Just have a good have a look on this. FDI has increased from 37 to 44 billion inflows, but on the similar ground, our outflow have also increased. A lot of our Indian companies are buying foreign setups. They are investing abroad. Now that is a good signal. That is giving us a global presence. We should consider that also as a positive factor for us. And India is gaining its international presence. That is this numbers which are showing. Our FDI inflows are pretty good in the services sector. That is where people are really banking on. We are having a good population of English-speaking youth, which is supporting this service sector, and not only in the urban but in the rural sector also we are seeing a lot of setups on the services sector. Now this is where we are actually looking for growth in India. This is on the trade side. Let's look at something on the FII side. FII's number are not very supportive this year. We have not seen a big amount of money coming in this area. We are, as you must be aware, that we are already negative for this month on the equities. Today also we are down in the morning. Today global markets are down. Year to date, both in equity as well as debt, we have seen hardly any flows. If you compare this with the corresponding previous year, we were already 761 million dollars. We have seen an inflow last year in the same period. Contrary to that, it is just close to 10 billion, which is a poor number so far till the month of September. We have hardly 3 months left, and usually November, December we see a outflow in the markets. This is the main factor why rupee has not been under a great tremendous performing side this year, because we have not seen a good amount of FIIs this year, FII flows. FDI is there, but FDI is a slow money when it will take time to come in, set up over here. This is a quick money wherein lot of custodian banks sell and buy dollars in the market, and they impact the currency. Now this number will tell you that if we have not met our last year's target also, definitely we are going to see some pressure on the currency, because this difference cannot be met totally by FDI in a span of next 3 months, unless we are seeing some big policy reforms from the government or some big money flowing in. But this gap will be unfulfilled, and this will create pressure on the currency. If we see rupees performance, we will see a lot of things coming in the media that rupee has gained, rupee has fell so much. Just have a look at all these 24 currencies and let's see where we stand. We have definitely given away the gains. We are down by almost 3.63%. This is as on 21st of September numbers. We are not that bad as a performer. Chinese currency has depreciated, and so as we have also got, they have managed their currency after the devaluation. But if you look at the first 10 currency, we are better off. We are better off than majority of the emerging market currencies. That is a support to us. We have seen volatility, but not to the extent of the other currencies. Just look at Brazilian real. Today also it is trading at a record low. Malaysian ringgit. All these currencies are definitely taking a big brunt. So we have followed. Definitely, if we have linkages to the global area, we will definitely make some noise if there is a big noises outside. But we have not given away big gains. We have just balanced ourselves. Let's look at the interest rate differential. Now this is what is called as interest returns. It's an interest rate differential between dollar, it's a dollar component and the market. If you look at the India, we are giving away 5.86% as the returns on the interest. Now, a lot of people are expecting a rate cut on 29 from RBI. If that happens, then the differentials can come down, and this interest returns can come down. There is a good chance we will see a squeeze on the debt market when it flows could slowly, or some kind of flow could move away from Indian markets again to US back, because we are now giving away small returns on the interest. So this thing will also have an impact. Just compare yourself with Brazilian real and all, they are giving 7.63, and if we are cutting, so there would be more pressure on our currency per se on debt market. So what will be the factors that will affect Indian rupee in the near term? These are the, I have just come out with numbers or the factors which will affect the Indian rupee both positive or on the negative side for the next 6 months to 1 year. These are the 5 key numbers which we need to watch. First is the US interest rate. US has given away their policy. Sorry, FOMC meeting was just been concluded, and they have not given any hike. But there is a good chance they can give a rate hike in October or December. Chances are very bright. Market is expecting 25 basis point rate hike. Now this would be almost after 9 years. Last they have given a rate hike in 2006, and 2015. After 9 years, we are going to see US increasing interest. Now nobody knows what kind of impact or what kind of ripples will happen in the global market, but we have to be prepared for it. If there is any kind of lift off or aggressive interest rate hike in US, that will definitely keep us on a bad note, because we are having an interest rate cut and we are having an interest rate hike. Definitely we'll see some flows moving out of their markets. Second is how emerging market currencies will do. Now this is very important. For this I have shown you how our global trade has changed from developed economies to developing economies. So now our dependency is more on the emerging markets than on the developed economies. So if emerging markets are not doing good, we will see some kind of pressure in the domestic market as well as on the currency. So I personally feel emerging markets will take another 6 months to 1 year for them to stabilize on some note. Unless we see a big intervention from all the regulators together to curb any speculative activity, we will see such kind of ripples in the emerging markets. Chinese economy, whether we'll have a recovery, now that is a big question been asked to me by many of my clients. And is the Chinese problem solved, or it is just the tip of the, you can never say. Even China never shares any numbers with us or the globe. They are very secretive, so you never know what kind of real numbers they have, what kind of plans they have. But somehow, see, market was always factoring China to post a double-digit growth. That has been totally ruled out. Even if they give you 7% growth or 6% growth, we have to now stay with that number at least for next 5 to 10 years. Definitely growth will come down. They will have a recovery, but the recovery will take time. A big bubble has been created, and that after the inflation of bubble, it will take time for them to at least recover. So we are looking for a Chinese economy, not exactly a recovery, but something called as consolidation in next 6 months to 1 year. Things will be better off from here after 6 months to 1 year, unless we see a big negative on front of political side, where there is a big change in politicals from China, and again the new policies are there. But they will do all the things, or they will use all the ammunitions under their belt to cool off the market and to make it stable. What exactly is happening in China? They are diverting their model from the export oriented to domestic model. So this kind of transition is a transition, and it will definitely take some time. So what we have seen in last 3 to 4 months is just how this transition can affect the world economy. So this export oriented to domestic oriented things will definitely take time, but expect a recovery or a stability in Chinese economy 6 months down the line. If they stabilizes, I think so it is good. Even if there is a problem in China, next best destination is India. That is what people are saying. So if they don't do good, I think so FII they have composition will change and the money can come back to India. So either India will not be impacted much. If there is a growth problem, then definitely we have to consider our imports also. I have shown you that we have a sizable import exposure from them. So if they devalue the currency, a lot of our clients have renegotiated the prices, and that is a benefit to us. So if it devalues, then definitely we can get some benefit out of it. Very important thing. Let's make our house clean. That is economic policy reforms in India. We are just banking on this since last almost 1 year. Things will move ahead, and we are still positive because there is still more room and scope for us. Whatever price crash in base metals we have seen and commodities are seen, this will give us a good leeway for good infrastructure investments because it will be at a lower cost. So we are looking for this policy reforms, and if this happen in um, proper time and immediate implementation is there on this front, we can see a good inflows coming back to India. So please bank on this. Keep your fingers crossed. Get good news on this front. And India's interest rate, will there be further cuts? Market is expecting 25 basis points just on the 29, that is immediate cut, but we are expecting close to 50 basis points by the end of this calendar year, wherein it will give us a good advantage on the domestic factor also to promote growth. So we are expecting close to 50 to 75 basis point rate cut by the end of this financial year, that is March 2016. And if that happens, we will see a lower interest rate differential. That is, your forward premiums for dollar rupee can come down sizably. So it's a good news for imports, bad news for exporters. So you need to just check on that, and you need to keep yourself covered for that. So if this factors affect Indian rupee, what you will see? You will see huge volatility in the rupee, which we are seeing in since last 3 months. RBI is doing its best job by coming and curtailing the volatility, but they can do it to a certain extent. You cannot, by looking at the trade numbers, when you are so much exposed to the global trade, how can you just say, okay, I should not have any problem? You cannot say that. You will definitely have some problems. So volatility will be there in the market. So how do you deal with the volatility? What is the way in which you should address this issue? Address volatility. First, please make it a point. We are in this business of foreign exchange, or we are exposed to global trade. You cannot avoid volatility. There is no instrument in the market, no, there is no genie which will tell you, okay, I just want to avoid volatility, give me some potion for that. No. What you can do is you can mitigate it, you can minimize this risk by using proper hedging tools, by proper risk management. You cannot avoid volatility. You are in this market, you will be affected by it. So what is the must in your volatile market? An effective risk management has to be there in place. Let's move now. The way we have grown in last 10 years, we have to move our business, the way we approach our business, we tackle our risk management to a very professional way. We have to have effective risk management in place. What should be in this risk management? What is an effective risk management? This approach should be more on the managing risk rather than just chasing the risk. Now I have many clients. I service across the people whom I speak on daily basis is close to 35 to 40 different corporates. Now they are with me since majority of them are with me since last almost 13 years. What we have done is gradually we have told them, sir, rather than just chasing the rate, okay, rupees at 63.50, 64.20, 66.85, just don't chase the rates. They are shadow. You cannot catch a shadow. Have risk management in place. Look at your costing level, your benchmarking level. How you can protect your business profit. If a worst case scenario happens, will you be affected? Have some risk adjusted rates with you. So have a balanced risk management approach. This will help you. This helps you in a long term in such kind of volatile market. Volatility, sometimes your decision is right, you will gain huge. There will be windfall gains. But if you are wrong on certain patterns, the gain, the losses multiply by 5 times. So this approach is not right. You have everything in place, a well decided thing. Best part for foreign exchange management is selective hedging. Please, you need to put this in place. a lot of things will change. Things are changing in the global economy. We are going to face new problems every single day. Hedging should be selective based on your risk appetite, based on your benchmarking, your business risk. So you should have a selective hedging. Now, what is required for successful foreign exchange risk management? You require a good understanding of hedging methods, instruments available, and the regulations governing their use. We have now capital markets who are giving you currency futures, options. You have OTC market which is giving you forwards. So you have a big array of hedging instruments. You should know how to use it and when to use it. For this, you require sufficient relevation and timely information on the forex market, your ongoing rates, how to take appropriate action. Important is you should have a good MIS. You should have a information system which will tell you, which will monitor what kind of exposures you have. If you have taken some covers, you are monitoring it closely. You need to reverse the cover. You have to take more cover. So this thing should be there. It should be in a systematic manner. You require a sound judgment, discipline, and a helping hand from an expert and a consultant, because you are not in the business of making money on forex. You have your own business where you need to focus on. So you should always rely on some external help who can give you inputs on the international market as well as on the domestic market. So this will help you on covering on the forex risk management. But to conclude with, I would say be prepared for volatility this year. It is just because of the capable RBI which is there. We have got a huge presence of respect in the global area as a central banker, because despite of a huge shakeout, you have seen the FII numbers. We have hardly even covered 50% of what we have got last year. Despite of that, we have not depreciated more than 5%. Usually, on an average, last 5 years, rupee has depreciated by 4.6% annually. But we are still 3.5 despite of such a big thing. So hats off to RBI. They have done a good job. But you cannot always rely on an outsider or somebody else to manage your risk. So you have to be proactive and manage your risk. Thank you for this. We'll take the questions from here if there are any. Okay. Let me come to something called as risk management approach. How you should actually have a risk management approach. What we tell our clients usually is, whenever you get an exposure, you have to recognize the exposure. People usually, importers or exporters, for example, I have got a new order today. They will consider today's spot rate for that. We advise clients not to consider only the spot rate. You have to factor in the forward rate as well. That will give you what is from today. If I have some imports, okay, for 3 months I have to pay some 1 rupee as an import price. For an exporter, I will get 1 rupee. This becomes your initial benchmarking or initial rates which you should track. On that, based on your business risk or based on what kind of risk you can take. Okay, you can take 5% risk on your forex portfolio. You can take 2% risk on your portfolio. Now, usually a volatility in the rupee volatility is somewhere closer to 5 to 7%. So we advise clients to consider at least 5% risk on your volatility, and a risk-adjusted rate should be close to 5%. Just factor in this 5% on your benchmark rate and track this or consider this while taking the hedging. It's very important. Otherwise, what will happen is you will always try to just chase the rates. For example, yesterday we have seen rupee appreciation towards 65, 55. We always ask our client, okay, sir, we will get one level below 66. We need to keep on hedging if we are getting close below 66, because we have seen 66.85, and at those levels, importers haven't covered. Now, what happened is there are certain people. Okay, you have your benchmark. You have your benchmark at 66 or 66.30. You are getting 66, 65.85, 65.75. People are happy. They will cover their 1 month imports. But there are many people who feel, okay, it is going to go to 65, 30, 20. See friends, this is just chasing the rates. You cannot chase the rates, and you will never ever, at least in last 13 years of my career in this market, I haven't seen people always catching the top or bottom. You can be somewhere close to it. But if you keep on chasing the rates, you will never be able to take any decision. And which is very important in this market is to act rather than just to change the rates. Based on your principle, if you have hedged yesterday at 85, if it goes down further by 25%, hedge or more. Selective hedging based on risk appetite. People are in much better shape because today we have seen a gap up opening. Yesterday it ended at 65.88. Today we opened at 66.02. There is a gap. How you will come and you will keep your stop loss? The stop loss has been hit. Where you will cover your inputs? So this kind of approach is wrong, Raj. Just chasing the rates, following the market. Direction is important, definitely. We will give you direction. People are there, experts are there, consultants are there to direct. But a corporate who is actually running the risk on their books should know, okay, this is my limit. I don't, I usually tell my team, too much of greed and too much of, fear is bad for the market. So at 66.85, if people feel, okay, it will go to 67.20, I will lose, I will tend to lose. Okay, that is the opportunity loss if you are not covering your exports. If you are covering at 66.85, it's an opportunity loss, and you have a trade book. It is not a capital book. Trade book will keep on coming. So you will have your next month to hedge, again next month to hedge. So you can definitely average out. So in this market, please don't concentrate too much on chasing the rates. Have your benchmarks at place. That will help you in such kind of volatile market to deal with it and to come out very successfully. At least you won't be much affected towards it. So have your risk management principle in place. Okay, I'll keep always 15 days imports cover with me. I will keep at least 3 months exports cover with me. You should have this risk management principle in place. So move towards very professionally managed on the forex risk rather than having some haphazard and just changing the rates. So I think so this will give you some sharing of idea, will give you some inputs in how you should manage the risk. From here. Okay, the first question is from Forum Doshi. With the US interest rate increase, with incomplete, I don't know what she's referring to. Okay, with the US interest rate increase imminent, by when do you think foreign flows will come back into the Indian market after 6 months, or is it going to be longer? See, Forum, India funds will come to India. People majority, even when we are speaking to a lot of our friends who are in hedge funds or who are abroad, people are really banking on the policy reforms in India. They want some clarity on how things will be moving from here. A lot of glitches are there on implementation of the policies. FIS, we will see a flow will resume in FIS on FIS, but we are concentrating more on the FDI flows rather than FIS because if you remember in 2009-10 after this QE, whatever US has given flow money, entire money has gone into the financial markets for quick money. Actually, that money has to go into all constructive companies to create employment, which has not happened in last 5 years, and that is why we are seeing the repercussions of this. So now this entire money is moving in market, which is a hot money. So this money will again move out and go into US Treasury because it's a hot money. Even a 25 basis point tweet in the interest rate will create, because leveraging is very high in the financial markets. So foreign flows will come back India. Give at least 6 months time. I think so by next year, Jan to March, we can expect a good number of flows coming into India. Next is by Bhavesha. What is the INR USD exchange rate expected to be next 6 months, next 1 year, and next 2 years? Bhavesh, you have to subscribe to our services for this. Nevertheless, predicting an exchange rate is very, anybody can come and give you a number. It will go to this, it will go to that. Because and the numbers will keep on changing. Tomorrow some new thing will happen, new thing will come. But expect, to be very frank with you, next 6 months, people are talking about 67, 69, 17, all numbers are coming. Somehow I am bullish on Indian rupee post 1 year. I feel we will reap the benefit of the lower commodity prices on our markets. And if things really pick up on the policy front over here, we will definitely be on a better footing. So I'm expecting rupee to trade somewhere closer to 63 to 64 range in next 1 year's time. 6 months you will see a huge volatility. By March 2016, we can see on the downside 65, 64.50, upside you can see even 67.50, because a lot of things are changing. The short term, I feel, be very cautious on short term. A broad range you can expect from 65 to 67.50, 2.5 to 3 rupees you can expect. You won't see much appreciation in the shorter end, more biases towards the depreciation. Okay. Next is from Sarla Shah. Although we in India may claim that INR has been relatively stable as compared to other emerging market currencies, does this not put our exports competitiveness at a disadvantage over other countries? See, export competitiveness, if you look at the numbers, everybody is talking on the global growth coming down. The global growth has shrank. And to get a pie in that global growth, everybody is trying to devalue a currency. But to a certain extent, devaluation can help. But beyond a level that devaluation will create problem for the domestic market by way of imports. Because every country has to import something or the other. Your inflation, see today nobody is talking on inflation because global growth is not there, commodity prices are down. But once the commodity prices pick up and you remain on the weaker footing, more than benefit, I think so you will face problem. So export competitiveness, you cannot be only met by devaluing currency. If people feel that just you devalue the currency and you will meet your problem will be solved, I think so Japan would be on a better note today because the currency is the most depreciating currency. See, since last 20 years, they are still in deflation. At 120 to a yen, they are still not making any profit and they are still on a problematic note. So just by having a weaker currency, your problems will not be solved, or export competitiveness. You have to have even internally, if we have effectiveness, if we have productivity, better productivity over here, you are at this price competitive to the world. Global growth has come down, so even our chunk will come down. I think so rupee at 65, 66 is a good note. I don't feel if rupee trades at 70 and 75, all of a sudden you will see exports growing and imports coming down. On the contrary, we'll have more problem by way of all imported inflation. So this is not going to solve a problem. We need more a stable currency than a devaluing currency. That is what even Mr. Raghuram Rajan is saying, that by just devaluing currency, you cannot solve a problem. Okay. Although gold has a downward bias, it has been little stable for last 2 to 3 months. In spite of the market expecting a drop, where is gold headed in next 6 months and next 1 year? Okay, Palash, next 6 months to 1 year. See, right now what we are into is we are into a deflationary economy. Gold is always an inflation-backed instrument. If you are not seeing any inflation, pick up in inflation, we are not going to see any big move in gold. Second thing, gold is much more managed by the central bankers as well, because it's a reserve currency for them as well. So till that time, they don't feel okay, there is a huge shakeout in the world market and you have to again put your money in gold. We are not going to see a big movement in gold, but definitely I personally feel gold will be in a consolidation phase only for the next 6 months to 1 year. But after a year, when things start improving or stability, and if you see any pickup in the inflation, the first instrument or the first commodity which will pick up is gold. So you have to stay invested in gold for the long time. Okay. Next is where do we see rupee after Fed rate hike and China's further devalue of yuan? I see rupee on the weaker footing. Now that is a very logical answer to this. Once Fed rate hike and China devalues the currency, definitely we will see repercussions on that, and we will see a weaker currency. Only thing is how RBI manages at those levels. See, today RBI is with a good amount of reserves. We are somewhere closer to 390, 370 to 390 billion. That is usually our basket. They are planning to increase the reserves close to 400 and even above that. So whatever RBI has defended rupee at 66.85, they must have already come and they must have bought at 65.55. So they are managing the currency basket well. They come and they will intervene, but definitely you will see a weaker rupee if this both the things happen. You cannot have a stronger currency under this condition. Next is what important changes should happen in the economy so that rupee will appreciate. Important changes in the economy should be on the policy front. We have see even a GST implementation will boost our GDP by close to 1%. So we are expecting on that. We are expecting on a speedy implementation on the infrastructure projects because see it's by default today commodity prices are lower, copper is lower, steel is lower. So reap benefit out of it. Create bridges, create infrastructure. Your cost will come down. Things will really help us. So for that, we are totally banking on government. Let government do something for us. RBI has done whatever possible under their belt to help us. Now it is entirely on the government to implement things at their end. What would be rupee value down line 2 years? 2 years, nobody can say even 2 days what rupee will be on to, but 2 years, I personally feel rupee will be on a stronger bias. We are expecting it to be close to 62, 63 band. We'll be on a firmer foot than right now what we are at. What can Indian jewelry players do to attract FDI? I think that is the best question. You should go and ask the government. See, we are expecting some policy changes, and India is a very, if you see from the exports point of view, also our gems, precious metals, precious stones, and all exports are constitute a larger number. So people are looking onto that for actually this thing, uh, FDI in jewelry and all. The problem is since a lot of people now are not taking huge risk on the corporate side because we are seeing a lot of negative from the world over also corporates wherein proper risk management is not at place. So we need to move very towards a very professional managed company so that the foreigners will have faith in us and they will come and they will invest here. So we have to have implementation of the policy on the right note for this thing to happen. Which all industries are affected due to this global crisis? Vishal, all the industries are affected. We have presence in all the industries globally also. So there is none of the industries which have not been affected by this global crisis. Only those industries who have their imports from China and the domestic market here are to a larger extent they are less affected because people who have concentration in the domestic market, they have imports from China, they can renegotiate prices from China, and domestic prices are not moving. They are not. They are less affected. But otherwise, all the industries are affected because of the global crisis.
Yes, this question.
See, what can Indian jewelry players do to attract everyone? That is what I am saying. For them, you should have a proper. Things will begin only if Europe will start performing better on the jewelry market because a lot of corporates who have exposed to Europe on these precious products, jewelries and gems and all, they have been affected. Expect a good recovery from Europe and all. I think so. Things will start moving, and we need to have clarity on the policy front from our government on this matter. So that can be done on that.
I think
That's for the day.
yeah, I think we'll just wait for a minute and see if there are some more questions coming up, or else then we are good to close this session for today.
okay, friends, see, a lot of FDIs are coming through the emerging markets, for example, Mauritius and all. More money is coming into the services sector. This e-commerce site and all, people are investing a lot on that. So I feel that is a very positive thing, because today the way the Indian economy is growing and the consumer pattern has been changed. Just look at how many of you are actually going into malls and buying things for yourself. No one. If you're getting the things delivered to you at a click of your mouse from your office, from your mobile phone, we are more than happy to do that. So personally, I feel this e-commerce platform and this web is a blessing in that. So if you can actually connect yourself through this on e-commerce, I think so that will create a lot of opportunities on that. So that is where a lot of FDI is coming since last almost 3 months, or even in future. A lot of money is coming into this because our entire pattern has changed. The way we do our consume things, the way we buy things, the infrastructure, be it on internet, everything is available on mobile phones. So rather than setting up a shop, the cost has been totally reduced on this. You should just have good infrastructure at place and things will come to you. So this, I think so, this thing is very good, and people are looking for investments in such kind of options on e-commerce, people who are having actually all website, online website to shop things and all. So one can actually try to see if you can sell your jewelry products or something on actually e-commerce, you can add value to that. It will be an attractive thing rather than going to a shop and doing it. And definitely things have changed. Indian consumer mentality has changed. And things are very streamlined now. We don't have that hitches wherein you can have written policy, this and that. So we are more going towards the Western culture on how to consume and the consumption pattern. I feel this is a very bright area on FDI. So a lot of money has come into, even last 6 months. What we have seen is, we have seen in a lot of things on e-commerce. People are putting a lot of venture capitalists, even hedge funds. They are banking on this because it's a small setup. You don't have to. So that is why we said that infrastructure is very important for us at this point, wherein it will help us to give a good platform where we can actually use this medium of business rather than setting up a shop and all. So e-commerce is one of the bright area on FDI. Can we have this? I think so. Yes, Swapnil will be doing that shortly. So you can have this on your link. If you have any queries, you have Swapnil's number, GeM Atlas, even you have our email ID and our number. We can be more than happy to assist you in how to manage the risk. And I think so we can definitely add value to it.
Great. Thank you once again for conducting this very informative webinar for all of us. It was a pleasure having you all for this webinar. Do get back to us in case of any queries that you have, or in case if you would want us to conduct a webinar on a topic that is of the interest to you as well as to the other players of the industry. You can write back to us your feedback or suggestions on info@gematlas.com. That's info@gematlas.com. Right. So with this, we sign off for the webinar. Thank you.